Hi, everybody. Let's see if I get this straightened. Okay, it is really late. It's been a busy day. Can you believe it? Because we have this mother load of evidence. So let's see if I'm on. Okay, so it all looks good. So this is day 1773 days, I believe. Oh my goodness. I probably should have looked. Let me look, make sure. It has been such a crazy day. And yep, 1773, I'm right. And so thank you for coming on so late. And we will get started. 1773 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and they took his life. They took his life. I just responded to a comment, was really um, one that you have to go and read for yourself. I can't really repeat it here, but they didn't have anything nice to say about the leadership on Fort Bliss. They had nothing nice to say. And I will tell you that that is not abnormal. I haven't had anything nice. I haven't had anything nice said about the commanders on Fort Bliss. Um, the way um, the DES was just breaching Fort Bliss's security left and right, all the problems. Everything that Richard was reporting has been corroborated over and over and over again with instances, with files, with witness testimony, people that were on Fort Bliss and absolutely know that there is a huge mutiny going on. There's no other way to describe this. And you see for yourself, clear as day, what's going on in Los Angeles. Even with the fires months ago, it was really strange. Like they wanted Los Angeles to burn. These water mafia people, um, n- eh, not sending water there, um, not making sure the water is full, or if it's full, not even sending the water there. I mean, it was really crazy. Very, very bad leadership. And that's what was going on Fort Bliss. Absolutely a setup for anyone that was living in the barracks. They were compromising our soldiers left and right. They were putting them in danger. They were breaching security. They weren't following their SOPs. And when it is goes on and on and on and on, then you absolutely know that it's not negligence, right? It's not negligence. This is intentional. This is intentional sabotage of our military, intentional sabotage of our cities. So, you can very, very much so compare what's going on in Los Angeles to what was going on Fort Bliss. Um, Absolutely intentional sabotage. To allow all of those vehicles to get plummeted by bricks and stone and everything. Where did all that brick and stone come from? That was all orchestrated, right? Um, to act like they are acting against um, law enforcement is they know they have gotten a message that they can act with impunity. That's the only, and then they've been groomed. This is something they've been groomed to be nasty. They've been groomed to even be that kind of daring to be that nasty. I mean, this is absolute cruelty. This is meanness. This is a hard-hearted spirit. I just have to say this. How can you throw a brick off of a bridge onto a moving vehicle and do that knowing that you could kill somebody? And yet they did it and whistled and yelled and laughed and everything. And then even some of those vehicles that are self-driving vehicles, every time that you burn them, you are making all these other families, all these other businesses, be it in California or be it all across the United States, because then they're going to beg for federal money to come in and clean up that mess. And you're putting all of those people on the hook for all so much more taxpayer money. And it's not just the replacement of the vehicle. There's so much fraud, waste, and abuse. There's um, grand theft, larceny, even in the taxes. Even in the taxes, they'll charge you 10 times more. I mean, President Trump is also pointing out about the rail that it's like a hundred times over budget because they just keep charging the taxpayers over and over and over again for something that they haven't delivered on. And, so the meanness, the short sightedness, and then to even wave other flags when when they don't even want to leave because they get the medical care, they get the social care, they get the housing and all of that, and they get to um, be criminals with impunity, and yet they're not even happy with that they can be criminals with impunity. You think they could do that in their country? I mean, you have just in the month of May in Mexico, you act up as part of the cartel, and there's 80 executions. 80 executions. You think you can get away with what you're doing to law enforcement there? Law enforcement, there's most of Mexico is controlled by the cartel. You think the cartel would take it easy and take it nicely if someone is banging up their vehicles, the vehicles that they control? The officers that have gone to the dark side, it's the dark side. Yeah, okay, that's the cartel side. But you think that they could go over there and they could throw big bricks at the cartel vehicle controlled vehicles and get away with it? I mean, what's going on there is absolute mutiny against the country. And they say they want to have their own social government, like that's really gone well. I was watching one I think it was a TikTok or whatever, but he's like, we don't want the socialism like in Cuba or the one in Venezuela, or one in Russia, or Germany, or and he's listing off these countries where socialism has totally failed, right? National socialism or socialism. He goes, but we don't want capitalism where we're the longest lasting country in the world. And we're going to keep it going because of our capitalism, but yet, and of course, our Constitution, our biblical law, our city of God behind it. The city of God is the foundation which the Constitution and capitalism sit. There's no other way. The Bible is totally capitalism. It's not socialism. It's about grace. It's about grace. But anyway, and he's saying like he thinks that he can hit his head against the wall and not get a bump on his head. Uh, you know, it's a proven fact. You hit your head against the wall, you're going to get a bump on your head. It's just insanity. It really is. not thinking straight. It's wanting something for nothing. It's wanting to be a grand theft larcenist without having to pay the consequences. It's wanting to have all the benefits of capitalism without being capitalistic. I mean, it's insanity because you get the benefits of capitalism from being a capitalist, for respecting property, for respecting people, and you see that they don't respect property. They're spraying the buildings. They're damaging property. And so, it's just an act of insanity what's going on in Los Angeles over and over again. It's the same thing. It's the same playbook. This is not anything new, except for we have a president now that is not tolerating that, and he's sending in the troops. He's sending in the Marines, and he needs to send in the Marines because this is our country, and they can't just say, "Well, we once had Mexico." Well, you lost it. You lost it. It's not your country. It's not your country. You have a country. Go back to it and make it a better place. Make it a better place. But I know it's controlled by the cartel. I know it's very, very dangerous. I know there's no property rights respect unless you're part of the party, right? Part of the cartel. I mean, that's what my grandfather left. He didn't want to be part of the party, the Dritte Reich. He didn't want to be part of the party. He wanted to have freedom. He wanted to be an American and have property rights and personal rights and, uh, you know, the, uh, and all the blessings of the Constitution. That's what he wanted. And not conscription, like my great grandparents fled Russia because of the conscription, the forced into a military. This is what socialism will bring. It'll bring conscription. It'll bring, all your property will belong to the state. Even your children will belong to the state. And, so it's really just madness, absolutely madness. And so we have that same madness, that same insanity that was on Fort Bliss, where they just felt like they could dishonor their oaths. They could absolutely do grand theft larceny of our military and our country right there using their positions, and that they could do criminal crimes with the criminal trafficking with impunity, and that they had enough people in place like Nieto, like Bob Moore. Nieto's with FBI, and Bob Moore with the media. Disgrace Bob Moore, dirty Nieto, and have the imposter judges and um, usurper DAs, that are not even unqualified medical examiner, that they could have all of this absolutely failed government, right? Failed government. They could create this to sabotage justice, sabotage law enforcement there in El Paso. And then they can just act with impunity and have all the benefits of capitalism, all the benefits of a constitutional country, constitution, but with none of it. That's what they think, but that's not how it works. And that's absolutely what Richard knew. He knew that's not how it works. And then they had a whistleblower on their hands. They had a whistleblower on their hands that couldn't be compromised, that had some ethics, that had a moral compass, that had an idea of how history works, and that without um, a biblical foundation, without the city of God, that the world is just spiraling down into the darkest depths where there's gnashing of teeth, right? There's just gnashing of teeth there. So he knew that, and he stood his ground, and very young, very, very young. And they knew exactly who he was. He was an anomaly. He was like, oh my gosh, an actual hero, an actual patriot, an actual uh, an actual whistleblower that dares to um, keep a journal, that dare keep a record of our crimes, and then hand it in, to dare call a CPS multiple times, to dare call 911, to dare be in communication with FBI Houston, to dare have IG all over the barracks, to dare have audits going on, um, and absolutely in communication with Washington D.C. So. Uh, they really know Richard Halliday's name. They don't want to say Richard Halliday's name, but they choke on it. They choke on it because they know it's their demise. It's absolutely has exposed them. And like Major General Curtis Taylor can't even, he can't, has no respect. I mean, they're just cussing him out. They're just cussing him out, rightfully so. And the same thing with Sean Bernabe, rightfully so. And the same thing with James Eisenhower, rightfully so. No respect for them because they're traitors. They're absolute traitors, and they've committed treason. Just like you have Gavin Newsom, new scum, I guess that's what President Trump calls him, new scum, which I think is probably a pretty nice term for him, considering all of the damage that he has done to California and to the families. I think President Trump is being very nice to him. I think that he needs to be arrested. Think about the fires. Think about the property loss. Think about the loss of lives. Think about all of the trafficking. They don't mention all of the child trafficking and all of the films that have been taken on the worst type of crimes against children. And Pendleton. Hopefully Pendleton is because they had a 14-year-old girl living in their barracks too. Um, Hopefully they've gotten it squared away. But we still have Taylor there at Fort Bliss. It's not squared away. Um, you know, we haven't arrested Leilani Hart. We haven't squared away the judicial system and the law enforcement system in El Paso. Bob Moore is still walking around. He needs to be arrested. He's so criminal. And with this A&R um, A&R Chavira LLC, this auto group, right? It, absolutely, the more you look into it and everything, the fraud and everything, the deception and everything, and it having all of its ties with Bob Moore, and it just shows you that, starting in January of 2020, he was part of the targeting of Richard. Before then, right? In 2019, he was absolutely part of the group, running the group, the Bob Moore group, that was targeting Richard. So that really uh, puts a timeline, another timestamp on everything. But he absolutely knew about Richard's whistleblowing reports. He absolutely uh, brushed those under the carpet, so to speak. He didn't um, report on that, which is so criminal. He's just such a criminal because he's an accessory to Richard's murder. Absolutely an accessory to Richard's murder. Bob Moore is it. Bob Moore is really, um, and of course, the El Paso Community Foundation, which is the Hunt Corporation, right? Woody Hunt Corporation. Um, they are uh they are just ruthless. They are just absolutely ruthless. And they, put a facade on that that they're benevolent or something, right? That they're benevolent, that we need them. No, we would be better off without them. We would be better off. They're very ruthless and they're very criminal. They're very criminal and they have A lot of money, a lot of power, and look what they've done. They've absolutely uh, created a failed county, a failed a failed city. That's what they've done with all their money. So it's grand theft, larceny, and also corrupt con job kind of contracts to charge El Pasoans, just ungodly amounts of taxes for things that they don't even need. It is for the enrichment of of ruthless, very ruthless people. Um, and so they really targeted Richard. It's become very, very clear. And this Zulinki, Melendez, Negron, um, and her husband Rafael Morales. His last name is Morales. I'm wondering if he's related to FBI Morales. Is he related to Nieto, right? Her husband, because you have the Melendez. Yeah, it is really, it's going to be interesting what Dan Bongino finds, what um, Cash Patel finds. This is a big case. They are they absolutely are totally aware of it. President Trump is absolutely totally aware of it. That's why he designated Richard 4 days after he took office of in the line of duty. And but there's been a mutiny going on, and you have something that's really coming out is you see the Mexican president Scheinbaum and her willingness to do us harm, her willingness to do America harm. That's, just think about it. You can do all this thing with migrants and all of that, and give your opinion on if they should stay, if they should go, blah blah blah. But no, she is telling the brick throwers to throw more bricks, the Molotov cocktail people to throw more Molotov cocktails. She is saying hurt America, attack America. That's what she's doing. Attack California. Attack. She's willing to hurt Americans, you see. And you have to understand why. We are in deficit to Mexico. We are in deficit to Mexico. That cartel run failed state, we're in deficit to it. They benefit from us doing well. Right? They they enrich themselves off of the CCP Mexican substance, that terrible substance that kills Americans. She's willing to hurt Americans. Now, that's really, to me, that's satanic. That is absolutely satanic. And, you know, who was it? It was another commentary. I forgot his name real quick, but he was asking, should President Trump order our military to drone the cartel? We've been so restrained all these years, all this damage, all of the deficit, all of the nonsense, all of the violence, all of the criminal trafficking, and we've been so restrained because at the end of the day we know that Mexico is our neighbor. It's our neighbor. And yet she's more dangerous. Um and I think yeah, I know his name. I have to find it. Um but he had a very, very good point. He said she is more dangerous than anybody else, more dangerous than Putin, more dangerous than she, really, because she's our neighbor and she wants us to be hurt. She wouldn't even mind if someone died because so many are dying from this substance abuse that's coming over. But you're talking about handmade bombs and stones and everything. And so, was Mexico okay for the cartel to target Richard, to dismember Richard, to bury him over there and parts of him in Juarez? And is that why they're just okay with it? That a soldier, is retaliated against so that they can continue to hurt everybody, being it Mexican, being it American, being it any kind of foreigners that have come through the path. I mean, there's tons of foreigners that get into this substance, that get into the way of these stones, that get into the way of these fires, that get into I mean, it is just unbelievable how evil Scheinbaum is. I mean, it's satanic. And if I was, well, she's doing what the cartel wants, right? That tells you where the cartel is standing, with the city of man, not with the city of God. And that's too bad. That's too bad. And hopefully in our country, and I think we have a better chance in our country to make this right. We have a we have a better chance to say no, we don't want this violence. I mean, we've been pretty restrained with this whole Ukraine thing, and which has been absolutely nonsense. And think about it when the deep state, because I count Bush and Clinton as a deep state now, and Obama as a deep state. They were so ready to do every kind of war, to do and that should have been like lights on for us, right? I think for a lot of people in the United States, it was lights on. It was lights on. Um, but for a lot of us, we're like, oh, they wouldn't be that. They wouldn't put our sons and daughters in harm's way like that, and they did. It was all unnecessary. It was all unnecessary. It was all for contracts. It really, it's becoming very, very clear, isn't it? And, that whole rioting, they're just doing it uh, because they've been groomed to do it. It's orchestrated. It's orchestrated. And it's the there's a movie, and I've mentioned it before. It's called the Brotherhood of the Bells. The Brotherhood of the Bells. It's like how conspiracies work. Real conspiracies, not fake conspiracies, but how this Brotherhood of the Bell can work behind the scenes and manipulate. And it takes a while for you to understand what's happening. Um, Yeah, so I don't try to say that I know everything, but I can tell you this, that we were so lied to. And in Richard's case, it's such a great example because we were so lied to. The chain of command has such a duty to each and every one of their soldiers, and they failed. They totally failed. and expose themselves in their failure because they retaliated against us. They use their power, they use the resources to retaliate against us. And so, of course, they retaliated against Richard if they're going to do that against us. So it really exposed the mutiny within our military. And so, absolutely, Millie, they're calling for Millie to be reinstated so he can go through a court martial. He absolutely needs to. He's so treasonous. And then there's a whole list of generals that need to go through a court martial too. Whole list of them, and it needs to happen. And I think it's a little scary when you think about it. A little scary to actually um, to actually have justice, to actually say, yes, we're going to bring them back. We're going to put them through a court martial. We're going to uh, give them a sentence for their crime. Uh, it's a little scary, isn't it? I think it's a little scary. But we have got to put on our full armor of God, get a backbone, and absolutely do it for the sake of the future of our country, of our families. There's no country like the United States. There's no country like it. It is just it's worth saving. And we're in a mess, but and I think that Richard's case is a good place to start, right? Okay, I'm a little biased. I think Richard's case is a good place to start with the accountability. And Mealy, that I think that would hit many birds with one stone. Many cases, lots of cases. He he's one of those multi-treasoners, right? Can I make up a word? Like be like Shakespeare and make up a word for a multi-treasoner. Uh, he's just so absolutely. That's why they gave him the auto pen um, pardon, right? They gave him the auto pen pardon because he knew he was a multi treasoner. Um, what is it called? A blue falcon or something? Yeah. So uh, that's really after writing all of these letters. The letters that we just sent out, I can tell you, they are so powerful. And, so it all depends on if we have the guts, the backbone to act on the documented crimes and prosecute them. And they can start with arresting Leilani Hart. Um, I'm I try to focus on these mutineers, right? Uh, like Nieto, like these imposter judges, like Ortiz, the illegal, unqualified medical examiner. He should have to pay back all of his wages, really. I mean, what a scam that has been. Just like these imposter judges since 2015. What a scam that's been. Um, and like the Michael Mayelas with the crew and Bob Moore and El Paso Community Foundation, that would pay off all of the debt, really, if you hold El Paso Community Foundation accountable for all the crime and all their scamming and all their con jobs and all their bad distribution, their corrupt distribution of victims' funds. Yeah, that would be That would be very helpful. Good place to start for El Paso. So thank you so much. Please share all this. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on with prayers and love. We appreciate it so much. And, it's just, um, let's pray that President Trump, it seems like it, I think he sent the Marines in Los Angeles, which takes a huge backbone to do that, it really does. So, um, yeah, I think that's a good message. So justice is in the air. Justice is really in the air. I'm going to have to get that song out and play it again. Thank you so much. Please share, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.